Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are having a look at a new aircraft that is coming into the game in Dance of Dragons. This is on the dev server and it is the Su-24M. This vehicle is a counterpart to basically the F-111, which is in the American and also the British tree now. It's the Soviet counterpart and has access to some pretty interesting weapons that are going to make it quite formidable depending on the situation. Now, the Su-24M actually breaks the trend of the Su-22 and the Su-17 of not being in the Su line. Instead, it's going to be after the MiG-27, since it's, I'm guessing, is more similar to it compared to the other compatriots. Or they just didn't want to add more to this line because there's already so many vehicles in it. So the Su-24 is set up very similarly to the F-111 and with very similar capabilities. You have the Saturn AL-21F3 afterburning engines, which give it quite a lot of power. It has a lot of large countermeasures. You can actually see them in pods on the top here. And also, it has access to an internal 23mm GSH-623M. So this is the rotary cannon that's right here. You can see the fire rate is pretty nuts, 9,000 rounds per minute, but it only has 500 rounds of ammunition. And what you can actually do with this thing, if you want to, you can add more gun pods to it, which is basically 3 more of these things, giving it an insane amount of burst mass if you really want to. So overall, you have 2,000 rounds of ammunition. Each of these guns having a fire rate of 9,000 rounds per minute means that even with all of this, you are only firing for a couple of seconds. And also, at the same time, just having so much burst mass that you are chucking out. So that is the amount of cannons that you have access to if you fill, if you fill everything. Nuts. But whatever target it hits, it's obviously going to destroy. So that's more of kind of like a tidbit for the vehicle. It's a bit of fun. But when looking at the actual vehicle itself, it does have quite a few pretty cool weapons. So looking at its modification, you can see it's pretty full, right? There's a lot of stuff going on here. First of all, we have the Moor, so that will be good. Apart from it will use a lot of your countermeasures, so just be a bit careful of that. You do get the R60M for air-to-air missiles. The vehicle can actually carry 4 of these if you wanted to, so you could technically bring these and then also the guns and create a very weird setup if you really wanted. The other parts of it though are more standard, so you have all the bombs that you can bring along, which you can destroy bases with. By the way, they added this in, which is kind of cool. Shows you the estimated damage to bases and reward multiplier. I think this is in the game now, but it's still really cool to see it. So you have all the standard conventional bombs. This thing does have CCIP, so you can use them pretty effectively. And then you start getting the big boomers. So first of all, you have the KAB 1500 KRs. These are TV-guided massive bombs. These are huge. And then you have the 1500L. These are laser-guided bombs of pretty much the same size. So they just have kind of different seekers on them is the way to put them. You also have the drag bombs if you want to bring those along, and then just the standard 1500 kilo bombs if you really don't like somebody. And then you have some pretty interesting weaponry. First of all, the 500s, which are just laser guided, the Ls, and then you have the S. So the S, this is a new type of weaponry that you're going to find on a few vehicles in the game. There's a lot more of them that are going to get it right now, but it's on stuff like the Harrier, and then it's on this vehicle. It is a GNSS guided bomb. So this is a satellite guided bomb, meaning that it works very similar to some of the other ways that you drop bombs in the game, but you can set each bomb on an independent target as it goes along by just moving, of course, your aimer instead of moving the plane itself. If you want a demonstration of this, I actually did it in the extras video, which goes through all of the ways that you can use these, and let's just say they're going to be pretty effective in air forces. And in ground forces, if people don't move, it's going to be very effective because they do not track moving targets. They only track stationary targets or a stationary point on the ground. You also have some more 250s and also the TV-guided 500s if you want to bring those along. plus some incendiaries and some rockets too. This thing has the huge rockets that a lot of the Soviet vehicles have nowadays, the S-250s, which have a ridiculously large warhead, which is why they're so annoying to actually fight, because they'll just overpressure your vehicle and not even hit you. One of the most annoying things to happen in the game. 130s also are here, and then of course the KH-29s turn up, which are pretty standard for these types of vehicles too. TV guided TEs, then you got the laser guided Ls, and then more of the GNSS ones, which are on different pylons, and the S25Ls too, with the big old booms. Then you got the 25s and the 23s, which are more standard, the S24s, and then of course the 1500KR TV, just a single one instead of taking the 3 big ones. So you can see for the vehicle it has a ridiculous amount of different weaponry. The one thing it doesn't get, which is different to others, is it doesn't get an external targeting pod. Instead, this vehicle has to rely on its pilots with access to all of this here. You can see it has an optics on it, 6.1 times to 23 times. That's what you're basically going to use, at least right now on the dev server, for all of these different weapon systems. So if you, for example, wanted to use something like the TV guided 500s, that's what you're going to use. If you're using these ones, the GNSS ones, it'll be a little bit easier to do. Like, I'll kind of show you what I mean. It does also have a radar, but the radar doesn't work right now, kind of showing that it's not finished, and that's like a lot of aircraft on this one. A lot of them, their flight models are not correct, but you can also see with the with the cockpit, they have actually got the cockpit actually working. You don't have the assets for the cockpit. We'll have a look at it when it gets added. Stuff like that's always beautiful to see. But the major thing that I found with this vehicle, it does have variably swept wings, by the way, so you can go a lot faster. Once again, very similar to the F-111. Weird how that works. And then we can just take off and have a pretty decent time. The vehicle does have quite quick landing gear, and I know that sounds really odd to mention, but for me, I've been playing a lot of the MiG-23s recently, and I'm so sick of their landing gear being so slow. You can actually see the pod there, which is modeled on it. This is the major one that you know, you're going to use, and this is what it is, right? So you do have a zoom in on it. It just doesn't have a thermal pod, or it doesn't have anything like that right now. So you are stuck with using this, which is fine. You know, it's generally going to be okay. But with the actual pod, it does have quite a long length that you can actually look at stuff, which is kind of cool. So for example, if I want to launch like the different bombs, I can launch them all on different stationary points, and they'll all glide by themselves to those points and then hit the ground there, which is just kind of nuts. Whereas this is how the GNSS is going to work. So it's going to be really good in stuff like aerialistic, you know. So there's that one bomb that went over there, and then you're going to have like all the other bombs that turned up over here where I put them. It's kind of nuts how effective, you know, that's going to be. Countermeasure wise, you know, it does have quite a lot, especially with, you know, the more. I just wonder how many missiles the Moore's going to fire off. That's really the interesting thing. It does have a very powerful RWR, as you can see, and the cannon is going to be pretty good in general dogfights if somebody tries to head on you, because it has such a such a ridiculous burst mass on it. The vehicle looks beautiful too. That's also has to be part of it. Its aesthetics are really nice. The only issue I have is when I look at it like this, it makes it look super thin from the cockpit. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's also an incredibly fast vehicle, so you can do some gun runs pretty effectively. Has all the CCIPs and RPs you would ever want from this type of vehicle. But it does have limitations on how fast it can be to drop bombs, so that's something to, you know, kind of think about. But this has everything you would want. So in ground forces, it's going to be one of those vehicles which is incredibly annoying to face because of the fact that it's going to be able to go to space and drop pretty much any type of ordnance on you. The only question is, do you take this over something like a Su-25? Because of course the Su-25 is one of those things. You can see all the bombs floating to the right here, right? Since I set them over there, look at them go. Welcome to the new age of destroying ground targets in Aerialistic and Simulator. Bong, bong, bong. It's crazy how much they glided across, actually. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if people use this over stuff like the Su-25 or, you know, obviously the MiG-27 with its missiles. This one has very similar capabilities, but it's a lot larger target, so therefore against SAMs and stuff like that, it's going to be harder to dodge, since it's a big old bucket that moves around. It's definitely not maneuverable. This thing is very much designed to be able to just hammer targets and not really survive afterwards in terms of War Thunder. But this is the Su-24. Let me know what you think of it, and as always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.